Alright, grade sixes, this lesson is number 6, decimal fractions and percentages. It's going to introduce you to percentages of things. Sorry, to get myself organized. So, you're going to see that decimals, fractions, and percentages are related. So if we were to look, I'm going to just get myself organized, but I was organized. If we were to look at this up here, this quadrant right here, this is split into hundredths. And there's a certain amount that are shaded. There are 60 shaded. So if I was to represent that as a fraction, I would say, well, I have 60 out of 100 shaded. As a decimal, I could say that as 0.60. An equivalent decimal to that, you should know, is just 0.6. These two mean the same thing. And then if I was to show that as a percentage, I would say, well, 60% of it is shaded. So I'd write 60 and then just do the percent sign. So for your questions here, it says fill in the missing values. You're representing a number 4 different ways. The first way you're going to represent it is it's shaded. Then you're going to represent it as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. So on this one, it's already shaded, and it already gives you the fraction. You need to tell me what the decimal is and what the percent is. Then if you go to B, the shading isn't done yet for you, so you need to shade it following this. And it gives you the fraction, it gives you the decimal, you need to do the percent and the shading. And then on this one, the shading's done, so you need to do the fraction and the decimal, and it's giving you the percent. So they're doing, 2 of the 4, and then you need to do the other 2. Remember, this says here is a little fact. It is useful to know some common percentages such as 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. So these are your benchmarks in percentages. So they want you to just lay them out by shading them and then showing them as a decimal and as a percent so that you can see them all. So the first one, they want you to do 25%, then a 50%, then a 75%, then the last one is 100%. All right, so if you flip over the page, this is up here is your little fact. It says not all percentages values are whole numbers between 1 and 100. We can have such things as 300% growth, or percentages that contain a decimal such as 3.5%. So here they want you to shade in to show 250%. So if this is a hundredth, I could shade in 100, 200, and then 50, things like that. Number 4, you need to just read it and then figure out which one is the right answer. And then here is a survey of 100 people were surveyed. You need to remember that 100 people. They were asked to nominate their preferred way of eating vegetables. Shaded in the grids to show the survey results. So here is your numbers. You read this and you got to represent it shading. Here you need to represent 19.5% with shading. And then these ones also. And then the last page I want you to work on is like a problem-solving one. It's basically one question just broken down. So the biggest thing I want to go over is you start at the top, you read, you work your way through these, and then down here what I want you to do is to take the information that you have and represent it in a pie graph. Things to remember on a pie graph is you use a ruler to represent and to show, and I will post a picture of a pie graph to represent one so you can see one. But basically, you figure out there are 10 long lines. That means that this pie graph you could break it down into tenths with the little lines in between. So using your ruler to represent chunks of that pie graph, because a full pie graph is 100%, so now you're going to chunk it into different percentages or decimals or fractions. I'm just reading the instructions and going through. I hope that makes sense. I kind of mumbled my way through that. But I will post a picture of an example of a pie graph so that you can see. Thanks, grade 6s.